All right, I think it should be working now. I forgot to plug in my microphone because I'm such a dingbat. But welcome to the live stream, everybody. Welcome and glad to have you guys here. So first off, big shout out to the channel members. Your name is in the ticker below. I appreciate you guys for being a member of the channel, and hopefully you guys are, appreciating the level of access you guys are getting to pre-release videos and whatnot. More to come as I get things sorted out. The last hurrah. Happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. So just, as a friendly reminder, as I always do, please do be careful tonight when traveling out and about. Of course, there's people that's going to be indulging in adult beverages, and hopefully they're smart and they're not getting behind the wheel. And I would ask you guys to be the same way too. There's things like Uber and Lyft, Waymo, if you have it in your city. Utilize those to get to and from to where you're going tonight to celebrate 4th of July. Don't get behind the wheel if you're planning on getting inebriated. I just don't like to hear that people that their life is cut short, having fun and partying and making such bad decisions. So be careful out there. If you live in my city, definitely be careful because there's just things that's going on in my city that's kind of crazy, but I don't want to get into a lot of that. What I do want to get into, though, is, like I said, the Nothing Phone 3 gets love and hate. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Nothing Phone 3 and what I think about it. And then also we're looking at the Pixel 10 August 28th release. So, yeah. Oh, no, my dogs will all be inside, bro. My dogs will all be inside. I don't let them outside because not far from where I live is the historical downtown area of Glendale, and yeah, they're gonna be popping fire. They're gonna have a fireworks show, so I know that's. My dogs are already nervous. They've been nervous the last couple of days just because people have been like, they've been popping fireworks, testing their fireworks, before going off tonight. So yeah, I got a spot in my room in a closet that's soundproofed in my room, and my dogs are gonna go lay in their bed in there and just kind of, hopefully the soundproofing dumbs down the sound. I sat in there for a little bit, and it sounds like it's gonna work. So yeah, for sure. Appreciate that, bro. Yes. And if you guys have dogs, please make sure you guys put them in a safe space so that way nothing happens to them. Anyways, so what I want to kind of take a look at and what I want to start talking about first, if this makes sense to everybody, is I'd like to pull up the hang on. Why are they doing this? This is so weird. Okay. That is just absolutely weird. How Restream is doing things. I don't know. Restream just has all these things popping up as if like I just created the layout and everything. So weird. Anyways, yeah, so we're looking at the Nothing website right now. Now, if you want to go to this website and order the phone, it is us.nothing.tech. Okay, now this is the overall key points to the Nothing Phone 3, and it's getting a lot of love and hate from lots of people out there, and I've been reading people's posts and everything like that. It's so crazy. The way that this device is bringing out news, it's so crazy. People like it and they don't. They like the design, they don't like the design. They're upset that the glyph lights are gone, or they're happy that the glyph lights are gone. So every time a new phone comes out, it's subject to this criticism and the scrutiny behind it. There's never going to be a smartphone that launches and is like loved by everybody. That's just not how it happens. But anyways, I did drop a video about the Nothing Phone 3 and it's kind of like my first reactions to everything that we've learned about the phone. And you guys can check that video out after the podcast if you guys want to know how I first felt about it, because some of my viewpoints may have changed at this point. But so one of the coolest things about this is that the phone is $799. Okay, now this is where one of the love-hate things is focused on, is the pricing of the Nothing Phone 3. Being priced at $799. There are people who say that, yeah, it's about time they released a flagship with basically flagship specifications. And then there are those who are like, for what you're getting out of this, they feel like $799 is too expensive, too pricey, too much. I don't know. So I'm letting people just kind of comment and just continue to say what they want to say about the Nothing Phone 3. If you guys want to know if I'm getting one, the likely chances of me getting the Nothing Phone 3 is very slim. Just basically, I don't have that money to go and throw out and try to get this phone or whatever. So maybe somewhere down the road in the future, right? If it ever comes, in my area where I can go and get a hold of it right away, then yeah, maybe I'll buy one and maybe I'll do my reactions to it then. But at day of launch, which is today, because today is pre-order day. Today you can pre-order a Nothing Phone 3 here on this website. You can go to this website and you can go and pre-order it, and then of course you got to deal with the shipping and stuff like that. It is overseas, so it is coming in outside of the US if you're ordering one. So just think about that with all the shipping and costs. Okay, so $799. You may be spending a lot more than $799 to get this phone if you live here in the US. Of course, if you live in the UK, good on people in the UK. They get, they'll feel less of the pinch. But anyways, some key takeaways about the Nothing Phone 10 that Nothing wants us to really kind of focus on here with their product. Of course, the new glyph interface known as the glyph matrix. So that's something that they're highlighting on, and I'll get more into that a little bit later in the podcast, right? You got the new essential search. So Nothing pretty much pushed on the fact that they're not trying to have like an over explosive in your face AI like Gemini. So they have what's called essentials, and essentials was usually like a ground just for saving notes on the fly. Like you could record a note to remind yourself of something and saving it in what's called the essential space. Now the new essential search allows you to execute a search from the essential space without having to open a browser. So pretty much doing like what an assistant would do. So Nothing is slowly developing their own assistant to kind of correlate with what and how they feel about how people would be using their smartphone devices. What up, SMT? Thanks for popping in, man. So there's it's almost like, if I could say, how I would describe a Nothing phone, being someone that owns the Nothing Phone 1 and using it, I would say their approach to tech is passive aggressive. It's like they want to slam you with all this coolest, geekiest, nerdiest type tech. But at the same time, too, they want to design something that is not always in your face. Like they want you to kind of get away from your smartphone and touch some grass. And it's like, okay, when you're building something that has like the glyph matrix, right? This little small display dotted, with just several things that you have on there. Some useful, some absolutely, just not useful at all. And then you have it open up for outside developers to create and build for this community, which they already have. There's people that's already been building stuff for that display matrix. That glyph matrix is what they're calling it. Some of the preset ones they have like the Magic 8 Ball. If you don't know what the Magic 8 Ball is, it was all the rave in the 90s and the 80s, right? An 8 ball that had one circular cutout with a see-through glass, and there was a die in there, like dice. There was a die in there that had all types of, answers or responses, and you would ask the Magic 8 Ball a question, and you would shake the 8 ball and then flip it over and see what it tells you as far as whatever you asked about. Okay, so yeah, I know it sounds weird. Some of you guys from you younger guys don't know about it. That's cool. It was something that we messed around with as a kid, and This is something that's in that glyph matrix display on the Nothing Phone 3. So you would shake your phone and then it would present an answer to you in that little circular display. So hey, it is what it is on that. They have things like paper, rock, scissors. You can battle your phone in paper, rock, scissors if you're bored as hell. I mean, people have mentioned that. Pretty useless, right? Who really wants to battle their phone? But you never know. There's always that one person out of billions that would do it, right? So we can never say that nobody's going to use it. Somebody's going to use it, but we just can't say it's something that everybody was hoping for in the phone. But then it's got its usefulness. There's been a built compass for the glyph matrix, so you can use it as a compass. I don't know how well or how accurate it works, but it's there if you need it. You got timers, like a timer countdown. You have you have an icon that you can set to a contact, so when you see that icon on the matrix screen, that's somebody that's calling you that you know of, and you can answer it if you choose to, right? Kind of like how the glyph matrix, well, not the glyph matrix, but the glyph lights work. You can assign glyph patterns to certain people in your contacts, and when you see that specific pattern playing, it's that person calling you and not just a random person, spam or whatever. So there's some functionality to it and more growing. And that's another cool thing that I like about Nothing Technology, is that they also allow outside dev communities to build for them too. Now, that was one of the things that Carl Pei pretty much talked about with the keynote launch event, and said that, not only do they already have preset things in the Nothing Phone 3, but also they have a large community outside of the Nothing software engineers that's already developing for this thing, and they're seeing some cool stuff being submitted to be added into Nothing OS for the glyph matrix display. So very nice. And we'll see what people come up with. Anything that's useful or something like that. Well, here's one of my ideas to pitch. But you could probably, with that dot matrix and how big the display of it looks, you probably could create business card QR codes. And when you want somebody to sign up to your website, or maybe you developed an app that people can sign up for, and they're you talk to somebody about it, all you got to do is just pretty much launch your QR code, which will pop up on that display, and the person can just use their phone and open their camera and highlight the QR code off your glyph matrix display and begin signing up. So there are some other cool things you could do with it, right? I don't know if everything's going to go to a QR code standard. QR codes have been out for so long, and I've never seen it progress to where everything is becoming a QR code. It would be cool, because then if it was, airplane boarding passes could be QR code specific, and you could just have it pop up on that matrix display as you're boarding your flight. I mean, there's endless possibilities when it comes to this type of stuff. So, while I am sad at the fact that the Nothing Phone 3 has given up the glyph lights for the glyph matrix display, I've seen renders on X where people have shown what the Nothing Phone 3 concept could look like with both the matrix display and glyph lights still available. Now, the reasoning that Nothing took away the glyph lights, that's a pretty interesting one. And I say it's interesting. Because the glyph lights is what people know Nothing for. It's it's like Google Pixels and Gemini AI, right? Apple iPhone and video recording, Samsung Galaxy and super ultra zoom shots of the moon, right? There are things that's mentioned about mobile technology that are synonymous with a brand, and glyph lights have been synonymous with Nothing. So when you give that up, it's a very big gamble and risk to do that, because the feedback of the Nothing Phone 3 is it's amazing. It is it's just out of this world. I see both sides. I hear both sides. I get both sides, right? There are the lovers and the haters of it. And you know what? By right. So Nothing is doing something correct. Nothing is doing something correct if they are getting both hate and love from people. When there's absolute silence is when a company should worry. If you release a phone and there's dead silence, in response to the release of your new phone, you really have to worry then. But since they're getting a lot of this feedback that's outpouring on X, on Threads, to me, I would say that that's pretty successful for a launch. And again, $799. So, let me get the specs pulled up here. All right, so let's go to the processor, because this is one of the areas where people are kind of upset about. Okay, so the Nothing Phone 3 is using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8S Gen 4, right? So just a step underneath the Qualcomm 8 Elite, and people are upset about that. Now, when you look at the specifications, starting with the CPU, right? The 8S Gen 4 is a 4nm processor, and it's created by TSMC. So if you kind of want to know, well, you know, I don't say if you want to know about the Pixel 10, because of course the Pixel 10's Tensor G5 is built to different specifications from Qualcomm. But anyhow, so yeah, you got the Qualcomm Cryo 8-core, and that is clocked in at 3.21 gigahertz. Okay, so you got one prime core up to 3.2 gigahertz Cortex AX4. You got 7 performance cores up to 3 gigahertz at Cortex A720 for the CPU. So those are the cores in the CPU. In the GPU, you have the Adreno 825. For the NPU, you have the Hexagon from Qualcomm. And ISP, you have the Qualcomm Spectra. So those are the specifications for the processor on the Nothing Phone 3. This is one of the areas where people are commenting and saying that, you know, yes, it's Nothing's first approach to, you know, to a flagship device. And there's people that's accepting of the Snapdragon 8S Gen 4 being in the Nothing Phone 3. Then you have a bunch of people who are like, this is not good. They should have went with the Snapdragon 8 Elite. So here's my opinion on that notion, because it's like the way that tech is today, it's never good enough. A company could come out and say, this is the phone that we brought you guys, this is what we decided to build it with to make it at this price point. And there are some people out there who just are unrealistic about things. They think that every component to a smartphone must be free. They don't believe on what it would cost. And if you want to know, Nothing has broke down how phones are built and how pricing is created for these phones in the form of whether a company is going to make money or not make any money, right? And I would say after this podcast, go watch that video if you're curious. It's on Nothing's YouTube channel, and it basically they sent an email to MKBHD and him to explain to them what his perfect smartphone would be in a world where there were no limitations and no bounds. And MKBHD put together on a list things he wanted in a smartphone if he could build it his way. And they took his suggestions and built that phone that he wanted. And then they talked about what it costs per component added in to build this fantasy phone for MKBHD. And then they released, at the end of the video, obviously, they released what the cost would be to at least recover some of the money they spent to build that phone in a large scale. And you'll be surprised. So, you know, I always try to tell people, like, we could look at a phone and say, oh, it's got an 8S Gen 4. It should have had the Gen Elite. They should have given it 32 gigabytes of RAM. They should have given it 1 terabyte of internal storage. Like, we can always bark at what we think these phones should have in order to be justified at a $799 price tag. But at the end of the day, there's a reason why. First of all, Nothing is stepping into the game. They're not an established company like Samsung, LG, Motorola, Pixel, iPhone. They're not an established company like those companies. Okay? Yes, we know Carl Pei was once part of OnePlus, but it doesn't mean that OnePlus gave him a big hug and said, "Go on, my boy, go out there and make something of the world." No, OnePlus, I'm sure, is not happy with Nothing technology, and they're not happy with the way that Carl Pei is doing things, how he's trying to build his own company. So I don't feel like that OnePlus has Nothing's back. And yeah, so Nothing is, they've jumped in the big pool. They were swimming in the kiddie pool for a while with the likes of the Nothing Phone 1 and the 2A and the Nothing Phone 2 and the Nothing Phone 3A and the 3A Pro. That's all that was in, the opening mouth of the lagoon where it's still safe. There's not a lot of sharks. With the launch of this phone, they've decided to jump into the ocean with other sharks in there and see if they can swim among them and survive. And it's a long time, coming. It's something that was needed for a long time, and I am absolutely happy that they've gone this route. This is their first attempt at what they would consider a flagship device. Now, for me, I've been using the Nothing Phone 1. That is one of the devices that, I still keep in rotation with like all the phones I have on my desk. But anyways, just to kind of wrap up the specs though, for cameras, 50 megapixel shooters all the way around, right? So the main camera, the periscope telephoto, the ultra wide, and the selfie cam are all 50 megapixel shooters. Now, I don't know how much megapixels it bends to. I will look into that a little bit later to see what it actually, if it pixel bends down, right? Because like, if you guys didn't know, there are cameras like the Galaxy S21 that has a 64 megapixel camera, but it bends to, I think, 16 megapixels or 12 megapixels. So yeah, anyways, I'm not going to get too much into the whole camera thing. And of course, for those who want to know, is it going to be compatible here in the US? These are the LTE and 5G bands, right? So LTE bands. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12, 17, 18, 19, 20, 25, 26, 28, 30, 34, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 48, 66, and 71. For LTE bands. For 5G bands, it's N1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 12, 20, 25, 28, 30, 38, 40, 41, 48, 66, 71, 77, and 78 in standalone and non-standalone. So those are the LTE and 5G band connectivity. For Wi-Fi, it's Wi-Fi 7. Let's see, Wi-Fi 7, 802.11, AB, it looks like GN, AC, AX, and BE, and 2.4 gigahertz frequency and 5 gigahertz frequency, and 6 gigahertz frequency tri-band, 2x2 MIMO and MU-MIMO. Sorry, I'm having a hard time reading. The way that the font is so weird. Wi-Fi Direct and Hotspot, right? Bluetooth is 6.0. It does have NFC. It does have eSIM support, and it's cool because you get 2 different SIMs. So you can have 3 SIM cards in this device, I believe, or more. I don't know if their eSIM supports multiple eSIM profiles, but you still get the dual physical SIM tray. So one SIM tray, double-sided. You can put 2 physical SIMs in it, and install eSIM. And I don't know if the eSIM installation with the physical SIM is identical to the way that my Samsung Galaxy S21 is. On my S21, I can only have 1 SIM active at a time. It does not support DSDS. So I don't know if their Nothing phone is going to be the same way, or if it's going to be like how my Google Pixel is, where I can have a physical SIM and like 3 other eSIMs and have 2 SIMs running at the same time. That remains to be seen. Yeah, so we'll just have to wait and see. So far, after what you're hearing, what are some of your guys' thoughts about the Nothing Phone 3? Do you guys think that, it's considerably okay for Nothing's first attempt at a true flagship? Or do you think they did a piss poor job? Sound off right now in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, sound off in the comment right before I move on to the next thing we're going to be talking about, which is the Google Pixel 10, which I'm excited for. Just giving a moment for everyone to just kind of like think up their answers. Man, it's starting to heat back up. It cooled down here for a couple of days, and today it's not going to be too bad. So I'm getting myself ready because I'm going to be on the grill barbecuing all night tonight. So looking forward to that. Hey, Nia, dang, what's up, man? If you want to answer the question, answer the question. Do you feel that the Nothing Phone 3 is, a good first attempt from nothing to create a flagship phone, or do you think they did a terrible job? Sound off. If you've been following Nothing, if you haven't, that's fine. You can just take a guess. Definitely could just take a guess. Excuse me. Anyways, let's turn the camera on. So there's my Nothing Phone 1. I still love using this phone, and I honestly wish that they would continue support for it, but yeah, that ain't happening. So it is on Nothing OS 3, which is Android 15. It's on Android 15, and it'll stay on Android 15. One of the things that is kind of cool that I like about Nothing, and the things that they create and everything. So this is my secondary page. Why is everyone bothering me? Leave me alone, people. But that, all I like on both screens, all I have is widgets and maybe a couple of communication apps, right? Google Voice right there, and then Google Meets and Google Chat and camera. That's all I keep on my home screen. And then on my secondary screen, I have my calendar. I have my Pokemon Go widget, so I can keep track of eggs that I have incubating and how my Pokemon buddy is doing. And then that one at the bottom right there, that's a podcast. Like Nothing, the brand Nothing, they also, how do I put it? Besides focusing on the YouTube channel that they have, where they give us in-depth and insight as to what they're building and stuff like that, they also have a guy who does audio podcasts about technology. And when I tap, well, it's not only technology, it could be any subject that you may be interested in. They have several different ones, but me, I'm gonna choose tech, and it's great because I wake up in the morning. I don't reach for I do reach for my phone, but I don't reach for it to grab it and start doom scrolling in the morning. I actually swipe to that section and hit the podcast and start listening, and it's really cool. It's like being a radio DJ, and just recording a segment that cycles throughout the day. You know what I mean? So if you can't finish the entire which their audio podcast is not very long. I think it's 10 minutes long, which to me is good enough. I can listen to it the first 10 minutes while I'm waking up, or I can go downstairs and make a pot of coffee and then sit down and have coffee and listen to that while I have a little breakfast before I get on with my day. So yeah, I love having that. But Nothing, I generally enjoy the Nothing OS interface. I really do. I like the way that it looks. You can get kind of playful with it if you want, and then of course you got the glyph lights in the back, which you can get a little extra creative with. Hang on, let me see if I can find the glyph. Which it's like a little game. It's not anything that's absolutely superly important. Hold on, just do a search real quick. No, I'm not trying to do a search there. Where is it at? Let's see. No, that's the nothing thing. Where did it go? There's like a little weird tool that you can play around with. Let's see. Oh no, that's a. Oh no, those are icons. Where the hell is that thing at? It is so funny because you can play around with the lights and everything like that. Oh my god, I can't even find it. I don't know if I act. Oh, there it is. Stupid me. Composer. Right. So that's the composer interface right there. You tap all those buttons. Leave me alone, people. You tap those buttons to create like a sound pattern and a light pattern. And the red button you hit to record, so you can record what you're creating, and then it plays it back to you. So I'm gonna create something right now. I should be recording. All right, so I just made some random pattern. Now here it goes. You can actually save that if you wanted to, but I mean, like, there's just this weird quirkiness to nothing that you can do. So it's one of the reasons why I really like, I really like nothing. Is not for those types of things, but it's just for the way that the user interface looks. I mean, look at that right there. That's like, it's kind of like out there, but it's not out there. I don't know what it's like. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say nothing technology is like passive aggressive. It's like they build something that's really cool looking, that's like out there for you to like, like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, that's nice looking, but at the same time it's not meant to be, captivating where you're stuck in a doom scroll. I can appreciate nothing for that. But anyways, all right, so that's a little transition right there. That was my Nothing Phone 1, and I still enjoy using it. But let's get into some Pixel 10 news. Okay, so I'm hearing through the grapevine that we should be expecting some sort of August 28th release for the Pixel 10, which means that the Pixel announcement is going to be in the beginning or probably mid-August, which I said last year. I said it was a good move for Google to do this, to move the Made by Google event to August, a summer release, right? Samsung's got the end of winter, beginning of spring area. Apple's got the fall area. Google should have the summer. And so, yeah, we're going to be ending summer with the bang. Pixel 10 launch. I am excited for it, but like I told people, I'm not getting it. I am going to wait for the Pixel 10a to come out. I'm still going to continue to use my Pixel 9a, which has been a pretty awesome experience. Of course, I'll keep you guys updated. Pixel fan geek over here. Very interesting what GSM Arena has come up with specifications on the Pixel 10. More specifically of what they've put in as the input for the processor, right? So on the GSM Arena specifications for the Pixel 10, they put that it is the Google Tensor G5 4nm processor. Right, and then they go in to talk about it being an octa-core processor, 3.1 gigahertz Cortex X4, and a 2.6 gigahertz Cortex A720s, 1.92 gigahertz Cortex A520s are the cores supposedly in this chip. But let me just kind of back that up a little bit, like take it back just a little bit. Because from what I've known and what I've read up on various other platforms, the Tensor G5 is a 3nm processor. And the processing power is almost on par with the A18 Bionic chip from Apple, according to those. We won't really know until the Pixel 10 is released, so we have to wait for that to come out. But that is what they're saying, kind of what it is going to be in performance-wise, the power that it has. I don't care if it does have that power performance, because I know what the tensor processors are built upon. They're built basically to be in tandem with AI, and that's where the focus is going to be at, is not only being able to be powerful to run AI, but to also be there to support it, like to more focal on that than gaming or anything else out there. Pixels are not a gaming phone. They're not a gaming phone. They are a slight smartphone photography phone, but they kind of shifted away from that, because every phone nowadays is like smartphone photography, right? Galaxies can shoot photos pretty good. iPhones shoot photos pretty good nowadays. Hell, even the nothing phones, can shoot good photos today. So Google, to me, has kind of stepped away as its focal point, which I don't think that they should. I honestly feel like that they should focus on the smartphone photography and bring in things like an expert mode or pro mode. That's something that we just want to see. Like Team Pixel, we want to see a professional mode in the Gcam for Pixels. At least I do. I would love to have more control over the settings of the camera, how much light the sensor is letting in, how long is the shutter speed. Like, I would love to be able to control those aspects on my Pixel 9a, and be able to take photos. And then having that level of control with your smartphone photography, alongside with the computational photography and the AI engine of how it processes your photos, I think you have a winning combination there. So I don't know. And maybe we might get surprised this year. Maybe they do it this year with the Pixel 10. Maybe they bring in a pro mode. I've been saying this for a long time for Pixels. Bring in a pro mode. Bring a pro mode in setting in the camera app, and watermarking. I know other people don't care about watermarking, and that's why, when you look at other phones that do have watermarking for their photos, it's an optional thing. You toggle it on. You customize what you want the watermark to say, and it's put on your photo with every photo you take. I would love for Pixels to have that. Pixels need that. I mean, like, how many people do actually would love to be able to take photos and be able to have a timestamp on it? I mean, in the photos metadata, you can find a timestamp, but let me ask you guys this. When you guys snap the photo and you text it to a friend, does your friend ever tell you guys, hold on, let me open up the photo and check the metadata for things? No. We don't do that. We don't open up the phone and install, RAM on the phone. We don't do that. So why would we go and try to dig into into the core points of a photo that was sent to you just to get the metadata from it to know when the photo was taken, what time, and geolocation tagging and all that other stuff? Like, we don't do that. Now, people that want to see that, not the location tagging, but just like, what phone it was shot on, the date and time, and if you want to put like your name there to prove that it was your photo. Watermarking is such a great way to do that, and I think that's something that needs to be added in with Pixels. Definitely, for sure. But the Tensor G5, for all purposes, is a very interesting, and I know that's going to be the more focal point this year of the Google Pixels, when they're critiqued by everybody out there who ends up grabbing one. I might grab one for the sake of review, but I'm leaning more towards no. If there is going to be a new phone that I upgrade to, it's going to be the Pixel 10a. As there's other phones, like for instance, my Nothing Phone 1 is going to become obsolete, so I do want to upgrade this device. Well, upgrade from this device, and I've chosen that I want to go with the Nothing Phone 3A. I like that phone, and so that's what I'll be upgrading to as far as Nothing. And the Galaxy S21 still works great for me, but I may end up upgrading, to the S23 and just using something a little bit older, but still good. iPhone 12 still kicking butt. I may upgrade to the iPhone 16e. So there are lines of upgrades that I've already started to kind of look at, and I'm gonna try to get them one by one over time. Yeah, so I may not get the Pixel 10. I'll talk a lot about it. Definitely excited to see people's reviews about it, but I will hold out for the Pixel 10a, and when that 10a is ready, then I'll be ready to upgrade from this to something newer for you guys. My wife's like, she's happy with her Pixel 9a. She does not want to upgrade, but I don't know. We'll see how she feels when she holds my Pixel 10a in hand next year. And if she's like, oh, this is cool, and she wants it, then I'll get her one. Because that's what happened this year, right? I don't know if you guys have been following my channel for a while. You guys know my wife got herself a Pixel 8a in the blue color. She was so happy with that phone. And then I got her the 9a and presented that to her. And so, like, right now she uses two phones. Like, she hasn't used two phones in a long time. She rarely likes to do that. She always makes fun of me holding like 2 or 3 phones in pocket. Now she's doing it. She's got her 8A and her 9A. And it's because she likes using both of them. So she uses the 8A for work when she does Amazon Flex, and then the 9A for just, her everyday search to search type things. So yeah. Anyways, if GSM Arena gets that wrong, calling it a 4nm processor, when according to other specifications, like other platforms are calling it a 3nm processor, which I've heard from basically TSMC and other companies that it was going to be a 3nm processor, then yeah, GSM Arena needs to get their editors to fix that part. Okay. They're calling for the triple camera setup on this thing: 48 megapixel f1.7 aperture, 25mm wide angle main shooter, and then let's see, a 10.8 megapixel f3.1 with a 112mm lens, and that's their telephoto lens with 5 times optical zoom, and then a 12 megapixel ultra wide is what they're saying. And then for the selfie cam, 10.5 megapixels. I don't know. We'll see at launch. We got another month to go before we hit August. I mean, today is Independence Day. Today is 4th of July. Like I said in the beginning of this podcast, people are going to be going out and having some adult beverages and stuff like that, and I really want them to get home safely. So if you know for a fact that you're going to go out and have some drinks with people, then please just take an Uber, take a Lyft, take a local taxi, right? Local taxi people could use your business. Take a taxi to where you're going and coming home. If you guys have Waymo in your city, take one of those. They're fun. Maybe one day I'll take a Waymo just for the hell of it and do a video recording and show you guys all the cool stuff about Waymo. It's pretty awesome. But anyways, I got lots to do because I'm the guy on the grill. I'm gonna be on the grill. So I gotta get things marinated and prepped for this evening's festivities, and so I got to get on that. So I thank you guys for being here and joining me for the little bit of time that I had. Definitely check out the video for today. I released it last night, but it's meant to be today's video. And go check that out. I would appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed the live show, you guys definitely let me know by hitting the like button. It's right down below. It only takes a second to do that. I would truly appreciate that. And I will see you guys in the next one. Appreciate you guys. Happy Independence Day.